Hi, my name is Natalie Van Dyken. I am a student in the Leadership and Ministry course with Dr. Hayes. And today I'm working on a project just talking to leaders that I know and respect and just getting the opportunity to hear their story and hopefully get some wisdom from them in their experience. Today I'm with one of the most influential leaders in my life personally. This is my dad, Jimmy Tomlin. He is been a leader in various roles, not only in ministry, but professionally as well. And so I am excited to talk to him today about leadership. Hi, Dad.
Hi, baby.
Okay, so because no one knows you or anything about you, I just want to let you take the opportunity to just tell us about how you got started in leadership.
Well, I was the middle child in our family, and because I had three brothers and three sisters, two brothers and three sisters, it was we was raised to be pretty much self-sufficient, and we had was told there's nothing that you can't do that if you want to do it bad enough, you'll find a way to do it. And so being raised in that kind of atmosphere, we were the type of people, all of my brothers and sisters, that basically, you just take charge of a situation, and if you want to make it happen, you make it happen. And so as we kind of went into our professional life, once again, I didn't let my youth interfere with what I thought was right and wrong. And I was put into positions of leadership early, even in my adolescence, in my training of my craft, and was having to run jobs with people that were a lot older than I were. And so it was a little bit humbling and intimidating, but at the same time, you had to trust your judgment, and you had to trust your training, and the fact that everybody has different ways of doing things, and the object is to surround yourself with people that is as capable or more capable than you are, and then to hold them accountable, give them milestones, and trust their judgment, and just at some point you lead them. It's not. It's kind of like you can't push a rope; you have to pull a rope. You have to get out in front of it, and you have to lead people.
So then, when you got into ministry, talk about that a little bit.
Well, I was raised in church all my life, as far back as I can remember. I was always raised in church, and my daddy had me standing up on the altar singing whenever I was 4 years old, 5 years old, and it was something that was instilled in us, and because we knew God at an early age, obviously sometimes in your youth you don't make the commitment that you do whenever you get older, and as I got older, as a lot of young people do, we have a tendency to get off into the world, and you don't always follow your upbringing, and you kind of dally out there in the world to see what the world has to offer you. But at some point, the calling of God is on your life, and you can't get away from it, no matter what you do. There for a while, I didn't go to church. I mean, the fact was that I was burnt out on church, and at some point, I come to the realization that my life was empty, and I was missing something that I couldn't quite grasp. And so whenever I came and got right with God, I told God, "Look, I'll be the ditch digger if that's what you want me to do." And so I rededicated my life to Him, and started at the bottom, basically, and just got to the point where it didn't matter what it was. As long as I was doing what I felt like God wanted me to do, then I was content with that. But it led to leadership, and because the training that I had kind of led me in that direction. And you get to the point where it's like being trained to be a doctor. If you're trained to be a doctor and you find somebody that's sick and you say, well, that's not my calling. Well, yeah, it is. You have to do what you're trained to do. And being in the leadership role, I just automatically just headed in that direction. And God called me into the ministry, and I haven't looked back since. It's been 35 years ago now.
All right. So, second question, how would you define success?
Success is, I think it's different for different people. But to me, success, I think, would be ultimately achieving the goals that you have in your that you set out for. It may be a different goal by the time that you get there, because obviously things evolve a little bit. But I do believe that at the end of the day, whenever that you put your head down on the pillow or you look in the mirror before you go to bed, you know that you've done the best that you can do for that day, and you've done what you thought was right. And I think that is a measure of success.
Okay. Okay, so what are one or two of the top leadership principles that you've discovered and executed that have contributed to your success?
You have to understand that you don't have the world, the market cornered on common sense. And I kind of alluded to that at first. You surround yourself with competent people that are like-minded. And because if you can tap into their resources, you have exponentially multiplied yours, and give them milestones and hold them accountable.
Okay. What would you say has been your greatest accomplishment thus far?
My greatest accomplishments, I would lean toward my family, because whenever I look back, my children was raised in church. They're both serving God. They're both successful in their own rights. They're both raising their families the right way. And in this day and time, I think that is about as the most successful thing that I can see anybody doing, was knowing that they've done the right thing with their family, and their families are doing the right thing from there.
Okay. Don't make me cry. You know I get emotional on these things. All right. What has been your greatest challenge as a leader?
Overcoming Jimmy. Because sometimes our own motives get in the way, and you have your own thoughts and things that you just think that you need to do. And ultimately, we have to set our self motives aside, and we have to constantly drive ourselves to asking God, what would you have me to do?
That's good. Okay. Can you pinpoint a defining moment in your leadership and how it defined you?
I can pinpoint a defining moment in my ministry. I come to a point in my life, and I was 29, 30, right in that. And my wife was in the hospital, and we were supposed to be going to Aruba. I was going to a job in Aruba. And somebody had given me a book, a little paperback book. And she was in the hospital, and I was up there with her. She was asleep. I was reading this little book that somebody had left. And the name of the book was In His Steps. And it's a book about somebody that decided to take the challenge of what would Jesus do. And as I read that book, I realized the things in my life that I was missing, and the fact that I had let my own motives get in the way of what God wanted me to do. And I had to take a step back. And whenever I did that and realized that Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, And as I was reading and studying, whenever the scripture comes up about in the book of Isaiah, where he talks about the servant and realizing that serving is not talking about serving others, is about serving God, and about we can't do anything until we learn how to be a servant. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of a defining moment for me. And once I kind of put all that into focus a little bit, then I was on about my way, and it wasn't always easy, but that's kind of the pivoting point in my life.
Okay. So what has been your greatest challenge? Oh, I already asked you that. How do you handle criticism?
Well, obviously it's, the human part of us doesn't like criticism, but I had a minister tell me several years ago that the measure of a man's maturity is how well he can take a rebuke. Because the reality of it is that God rebukes us all. And you got to be objective and look in the mirror and said, okay, that's, is this a possibility? Could it be real? And being objective to that and just coming to reality with yourself and asking the question, God, if I need to change, show me and I'll change. And so I think I'm open to it. We don't like it. It don't taste good sometimes, but it's real.
That's true. Okay, so what do you do to keep your family priority number one?
The man is the priest of his household. And so in order for you to be the priest of your household, that means that you are the model that the rest of your family needs to look to. Sometimes we fail in that aspect. Sometimes we're not the best model, but you have to pick yourself, dust yourself off, and learn how to forgive yourself for your failings, mm-hmm. and go on and realize that you still have a commitment to God and to your family first.
Okay. How do you continually deepen your personal relationship with coworkers, peers, and other people who follow you?
You try to put yourself in their place. You try to be sympathetic and not look at how you would react in certain situations, but you have to look at what kind of situations they're in, and the fact, and don't criticize whenever don't actually do the things that you think that they should, because you're not in their shoes. And the truth is that being sympathetic is not always easy, because sometimes the critical nature of us thinks that, well, I would have done this different and I would have done that different. But you can't ever really count on that, because unless you're standing in their shadow or in their shoes, you don't really know for sure. And just try to feel their pain and help them through it the best you can.
Okay. Describe the role that God has played in your life and leadership.
Well, God has to be not just a philosophy or not just someone that you read about. God has to be real. Mm-hmm. And having that intimate relationship, I think, is paramount to doing everything in your life. If you don't have that intimate relationship, you know of God, but you don't really know God. And there's a difference. And being able to carry on a conversation with him like he's your best friend is, to me, is what it's all about. It's relationship, not religion.
That's good. Okay. Self-reflection. What questions are you asking yourself lately?
How did I wind up in the situation that I'm in? If I would have known I was going to live this long, I'd have took better care of myself. But sometimes we all, look back and you look at the what ifs, and that's a scary thing sometimes, because at 64 years old, almost 64, you look at where are you now and where could you have been if things would have been different. And but at the end of the day, you have to take that in all in perspective, because and live your life one day at a time. Because I believe that whenever God told Moses that he said that I am that I am, that's a reflection that he is the God of the here and the now. Yes, he's the God of the past and he's the God of the present, but he's more concerned about today. We don't need to worry about what happened yesterday. We don't need to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. But let's take this today and live this life today.
Okay. How do you respond to the idea that it's sometimes lonely at the top?
Well, it is, because sometimes the weight of the world with the jobs and leadership, you feel like that if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. And but again, I'll go back to the just the philosophy of surrounding yourself with good people and making them responsible, making them accountable, and realizing that you can't do it alone. And you're going to have to delegate some of that authority to others that that help you do it. And don't beat yourself up if it don't happen the way you want it to.
Okay, so what has been the greatest reward of your leadership?
The greatest reward to me is looking back and seeing all the people that has been somehow touched or has moved on into the ministry that came up underneath your ministry. As I look back now and all the little churches that we pastored whenever we was young, and seeing people that you didn't think that you was getting through to, seeing people that you thought that you would never amount to anything, and all of a sudden here we are several years later, that there's a lot of them that come up through our youth ministry that we see that are in leadership today. And to me, that's a big reward.
That's awesome. All right, final question. Do you think about your legacy and what you want to leave behind someday? And if so, what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
I do think about that a lot. And at the end of the day, I guess I want to have people say that he did the right thing. That's all you can do, because I think whenever it gets right down to it, you have to make decisions. And those decisions have to reflect who you are and what you stand for, and that the fact that ultimately you're going to be held accountable for that. And so if you can look at yourself and you can tell yourself, I did the right thing today, that's all I want people to remember me by.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking time to come spend time with me and for answering questions. And I'm proud to be your daughter.
Thank you. I'm proud of you.